Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dirty Pat Walsh channel on YouTube with me, your host, Dirty Pat Walsh. So I'm surprised that people liked that video about me talking about my musical career yesterday, but I got a lot of good responses on it. So I think I am gonna sit down one day and make like a feature-length movie about all the stories from all the bands. But I just wanted to tell you, like, it took me that whole 15-minute video yesterday just to kind of give a brief overview of my solo career. But you got to realize all this stuff was going on pretty much in the same, definitely all in the same decade, or 15 years, let's say. So, stuff I did other than my solo stuff, and my solo stuff's been a constant throughout it all. I used to play with a band called Sophie, which was an acronym for the main core members of the band. And we were an experimental music ensemble. Oh, fuck, you know what? We need a dip. Oh, I said, oh, yeah. Cheers, everybody. So, we were an experimental music ensemble, and we did all kinds of weird, crazy stuff. We stuck around long enough to record 11 full albums, and it was kind of an ensemble where people would come and go, and we had a core membership. So there was Sophie. I also at that time started the Pat Walsh Band, which was myself, Ian Osborne, and Scotty Mucklow, who was just learning to drum, so he was perfect for the band. And that band evolved into one of the best bands I've ever had, called the Diplomats. I showed you a 7-inch from that band the other day, and basically the Pat Walsh Band, and we just called that we didn't have a name for the band yet, and I thought it sounded really stupid calling it that. So Scotty Mucklow used to drive around in a Dodge Diplomat, and he'd carry around our gear and stuff. So I thought that's a cool name, the Diplomats. So, yeah, but we started when it was me, Ian, and Scotty. We mostly played blues, like blues covers, stuff like that. But when we changed the name to the Diplomats, and Scotty was our drummer, and then he just kind of up and left for Montreal. So we needed a new drummer, and that's how I met Jill Stavely. We were sitting on the patio at the Only Cafe one day, and Ian and I were talking about it, and saying, damn, we need a new drummer. And Jill, who was also just learning how to play drums, who was also sitting with us, piped up and said, I'll be your drummer. So we had a drummer, and when it evolved into that band, I started writing the songs, like original songs for it. We were like kind of like a bluesy, like AC/DC's kind of blues. Well, it's definitely blues based music, but it was kind of an AC/DC like sound, just hard rock. You know what I mean? Hard fist in the air rock. And if you want to see what the Diplomats were all about, look at my Diplomats playlist, and there's a few live videos and a video for the song I played on slide guitar the other day called "Gimme Hell." Now, when Ian eventually left the band, that was in the 2000s. Jill and I decided to carry on as a two-piece that we still do to this day called Hurricane Charlie. Okay, so on top of having the Pat Walsh Band, I was commissioned by the owner of a restaurant in town that I actually worked at for many years in its second location. He commissioned me to put together a blues band because he thought I was the blues guy in town, and so he came up to me one night at the bar and said, "Hey, can you put a band together and do a blues night at my restaurant?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I did that, put together a little blues band, and it was kind of comprised of members of this other band I was playing in at the time called Special Guest. Special Guest was kind of a hip hop metal band, like Limp Bizkit style kind of thing, but it was very tongue in cheek. But yeah, we had a DJ, we had a beatboxer guy. So I mainly hoisted a few of those guys and made that the Dirty Pat Walsh Blues Band. And that band evolved two ways. Special Guest it was just a college rock band, right? And they just asked me to play harmonica. I was older than all of them. They were all jocks. I was like a drunk. And yeah. But the beatboxer and I, Andrew Netto, we really got along well. And he wanted to do his human beatboxing stuff along with my songs. So he had a big flag that he'd stolen from a gas station out west called Turbo, and so we had a big flag that said Turbo on it and a turbo ball cap. So we called our band Turbo, and people really liked it. It was really a weird sound. I don't have anything to share of it up on the YouTubes, but it was a cool act. It was a really cool act. He also, near the end of that band, he brought in a couple turntables to do scratching on, but they weren't like scratcher turntables. They were like old 78 players, and he'd bring in like weird records like Disco Duck and things like that. It was fucked, but very fun. And we got to open up for Art Bergman once, who's one of my absolute favorite Canadian artists. I've been a fan of his since I was 13. And we got to open up for him, and that was really cool. And the Dirty Pat Walsh Blues Band kind of turned into the Jackson Sanatorium Blues Band, because kind of half the band, we did a couple gigs, and then we kind of fell apart, but I still wanted to, me and a couple other members of that band wanted to keep playing music, and Neil was so impressed with how we did it. He said, since you're changing up your lineup, I really want to learn how to play bass, so can I play bass in the band, and you guys can have a steady gig here every Wednesday night. And that was magical. That was a magical night. It was like an open stage, and we'd play a set. At the beginning, there'd be like an open stage for a couple hours where you could bring your whole band out and play. And then we would play a really drunken set at the end. It was a hell of a lot of fun. So that turned into that. And we have many stories of the Jackson Sanatorium. Now, when the Jackson Sanatorium broke up, Neil wanted to keep playing music with me, the bass player. But he really wanted to be like a front man, like playing the guy playing lead guitar and singing. Right? He's not really that great a guitar player. But we started this band called the Dirty Sanchez Brothers, where I played second guitar, Neil played first guitar, I guess, and my old friend Chris played the drums. And we were just a blues trio, but it didn't last. We played a few gigs, and we played a few gigs out of town as well, but it didn't last long because Neil was hard to work with in that band, so we just kind of quit it. No lost love for Neil; he's a great guy. Um, but anyway, that his band is now another band. Like he still does that style of band, except they're called the Venisons. Um, Now, starting in the mid '90s, I also played in a like this is all happening in the '90s, like between '92 and '99. Um, I played bass for a punk rock band called Joe Buck. We were like a Stooges style punk rock band, really fucking loud and heavy, and our singer used to do crazy stuff like breathe fire and do the human blockhead trick and staple his pants to his waist, all kinds of shit. It was a crazy band, but way fun. We got to open up for the Headstones once. That was kind of cool. Um, and most importantly, I forgot to mention, starting in 1994, and we went on to 2014, was Wine with Everything, which I could write a book about Wine with Everything, probably. Um, I also, now near the end of the Jackson Sanatorium, because like I said before, Scotty Mucklow moved off to Montreal. He was our rhythm guitar player. We played a couple gigs with a different guitar player, but it didn't work out, and the band kind of fell apart. But as that band was falling apart, the Silver Hearts were getting started, and the Silver Hearts is probably the out of all the bands I've done stuff with, that done big stuff with, the Silver Hearts is the band for sure. Um, and from the Silver Hearts, I also started playing in an old time fiddle banjo stand up bass harmonica quartet called Lotus White and the Ways of the World, and that's how I met. I met Lotus. His name's Sam. I met him in the Silver Hearts because he was playing stand up bass for us for a bit, and he invited me to play harmonica in this act that he fronted and played banjo in, and that was a heck of a lot of fun playing in that band. He went on to do Shisham, Lotus, and Son, which I have plugged here many times. I also did a brief appearance on. There's this band called The Burning Hell, and they're one of Peterborough's biggest musical success stories. And back when they were starting, I was a vocalist in that band. That was all I did, was baritone vocals. Um, and that was great fun. Near the end, or in the 2000s, not so long after this, I also started a black metal band called Ado, which incorporated real satanic ritual into the performance. Because I'm an old theater guy, and I'll tell you more stories about that band later. Also, throughout the early '90s, I played harmonica with a fella named Phil Kummel, and I appeared on one of his albums. And I did spoken word for his band Pipe Bomb. Um, I also played tambourine near, I guess it would have been like early 2000s, with Sun Ra Ra Ra, this garage rock band in town. They're still going on. I just don't play with them anymore. I don't know why, but and I did a one gig. The only time I've ever played drums is I played drums for a band called Danny and the Destroyers, which was the front man from Sun Ra Ra Ra, just another little band he cooked up for one night. yeah, and so through, I'll timeline this when I make the longer video more so it's less confusing. But this all of this happened within a 15-year period, I think. Like, well, from 94 to 2014, you know. And steadily throughout that, I have worked very hard on my solo music. I've released a lot of records. And on top of that, I was a theater, a playwright, and director and actor, and stage manager, and all that good stuff with theater. So throughout all of this, I was doing like little theatrical shows at this little theater we had in town called the Union. And from the Union to the Gordon Best to all kinds of weird places in Peterborough, I've had about 30 of my scripts that I've written produced. A couple of them have been produced a couple times. I'm pretty proud of that. And I had a book of my plays published back in 2006. Along with that, I did music for about a dozen dance pieces in the 90s, and that has started again. And now I'm playing harmonica with I Am Made of Fire and When I Busk with Glenn Pierce. So yeah, that's just kind of like, what are we at now? 17 minutes, and I've just named the acts that I played in. So I'll be making a movie about this. And we're going to chew a lot of tobacco and talk a lot of war stories. All right. Thanks for your support, everybody. Be well and stay free.